Griffins are brave hunters and the most chivalrous of creatures known to man. Before they snap down from the heavens upon their prey like a divine whip, they let out a long piercing shriek in warning, so that the victim may prepare itself for the imminent attack. Griffins do not fear to attack armed men. In fact, they prefer such prey, for defeating a knight flatters their pride. They even attack fiends, the terror of the Velen wilderness, so honourable is their nature. And so reads the excerpt regarding griffins from the book Heraldic Animals. With the glorious mane and sinewy frame of a lion, merged with the wings, beak and razor-sharp talons of an eagle, the griffin circles the skies above its prey, before swooping suddenly, raking flesh and bone with a lethal swipe. Other more deadly variants of the species spit corrosive acid to dissolve any who hunt it. That description seems somewhat out of place when we think of the majestic griffins, and the quite angelic light the scholars paint them in. Historically revered and given the utmost compliment of serving as the heraldic emblem to influential lords and ladies, you wouldn't expect the mighty griffin to be a malicious predator, stealing plump cows from humble farmhands. Maybe if you spy a griffin soaring through the air with a sheep in its grasp, you should thank the heavens that it isn't you impaled on its talons, for the griffin won't spare too much thought for the distinction between sheep and shepherd. If you're listening to this because you hope to hunt down one of these legendary beasts, beware. A betting man might wager that the griffin would take your head as a trophy before you can take his. Fiercely territorial and willing to go on catastrophically destructive rampages to protect their kin, entering the domain of a griffin is all it takes to provoke their ire. In fact, of all the beasts plaguing the northern kingdoms in the year 1272, one particular archgriffin, residing in the far north of the Skellige Isles, may just be the toughest creature to slay in the base game of The Witcher 3. With such stiff competition, that is not an easy title to hold. Hey guys, it's Drew here, and in the latest installment of my Witcher lore and mythology series, I'm going to look into the hybrid beasts known as griffins. And in this video, we'll delve into the historically endearing perception we have of them, and how that compares to the reality in the Northern Kingdoms. Griffins are one of the most commonly used symbols in heraldry, and there is even a school of witches named in their stead. We'll talk about why this is very soon, but first let's talk about the predators who cause ceaseless problems for farmers, merchants, and travellers alike. Griffins are hybrid creatures, a combination of lion and eagle, conveniently taking the most dangerous pieces of each to make for a formidable opponent. Their wings make them a nightmare to strike, unless you happen to be a sure-shotted marksman with a crossbow, and they're no less deadly on the ground, with the scythe-like talons of a bird of prey, backed by the physical strength of a lion. With such a voracious maw, and a curved beak ending at a tapered point, a griffin could pluck the steel-plated head right off an armoured man's shoulders. Griffins usually inhabit primeval highlands, and build their nests in unreachable summits to protect their young. So long as they remain in the heights men can't hope to scale, their territorial nature can be kept in check. However, it is believed that the griffins have gradually made their way lower and lower, closer to human civilization. In the highlands, they have an infinite supply of marmots and wild goats, but on the flat plains dominated by humans, well-fed livestock are kept trapped in pens, ripe for the plucking. The coalescing of human civilization and griffin nests is the catalyst to the problem. Up in the mountains, griffin nests were safe and sound, but down on the ground they are vulnerable to the mortal masses. As a result, the territorial nature of the griffin means they will hunt any who encroach on their domain. Farmers and their livestock are killed in droves. Even merchants and vagrants keeping to the roads aren't safe. There is much speculation about whether the griffins are native to the land, or if they appeared as a result of the conjunction of the spheres, but considering the fact that humans only inhabited the land after the conjunction, and the well-documented change in hunting practices by the griffins after the arrival of humans, signs seem to point toward the griffins being indigenous to the northern kingdoms. If they only existed as long as human civilizations, why would they waste the effort hunting elusive marmots and wild goats in the first place? Regardless, the quarrel of who is native and who is imported is lost on the people of the northern realms. The griffins are a plight, and they meddle with the day-to-day grind of the common serf, so inevitably the contracts started finding their way onto notice boards, and the services of witches and bounty hunters were sought after. As I mentioned previously, there are a couple of known subspecies of griffin in the northern kingdoms, the first of which is called a royal griffin. This variant is only subtly different from your average griffin, and one can be found causing a commotion in the small settlement of White Orchard. Griffins are known to mate for life, which is one of the reasons they will go to great lengths to protect their nests, their lands, and their families. Well, it just so happens that a group of Nilfgaardian soldiers butchered a female royal griffin in her nest, and that explains why her widower is on a violent rampage through White Orchard. In order to lure this male griffin to its death, one must tempt it with food. Now, you could go into town to butcher a cow or a dog or the village idiot, but an even better form of bait comes in the form of buckthorn. This aquatic plant stinks of rotting flesh when removed from the water and will fool even the savviest griffin. So if you find yourself face to face with either a griffin or a royal griffin, the best way to defeat them is on the ground. While they circle above you, be wary of the positioning of their wings. If you notice them preparing to swoop, dive for cover. Their claws scraping your flesh at high speed will almost surely dice you like ham. Keep close to the griffin when it's on the ground to prevent it from tackling you. Wings are not designed for close combat, while swords will make quick work of a griffin, especially if coated in hybrid oil. The other subspecies of griffin is far more distinguishable from its counterparts. Archgriffins differ in coloration to the standard variant. They have dark red and black fur and beet red faces. The most significant distinction, however, is the fact they spit acid. Allowing an archgriffin to fly freely above you is far more perilous than a regular griffin, as you cannot hide from acid raining down upon you. Bring the beast to the ground with your crossbow or the sign of Ard if you are talented enough to possess the skill. An archgriffin living in isolation can be found on a remote island north of Ard Skellige. The voyage to Snidhall Isle may even take your life before you witness the majestic beast, for sirens and drowners infest the choppy waters of Skellige. If you do happen to moor safely on the isle, look to the skies to find your foe. This archgriffin is one of, if not the most challenging monster to slay in all of the Northern Kingdoms. Hidden within its nest atop the cliffside, the hunters brave enough to take down the beast will find a key on a dead adventurer. This poor soul hid his treasure in a seemingly mundane location, only for an archgriffin to make its nest atop the loot. Within the chest, some rare plunder is ripe for the taking. The griffins of the Northern Kingdoms share some striking similarities, as well as some significant differences to the griffins of mythology. Many real-world cultures have rich folklore pertaining to these beasts, and there are some noteworthy points to ponder. Firstly, griffins are often attributed with guarding treasures and priceless possessions. In fact, according to ancient Greek and Roman texts, griffins were associated with gold, making their nest partially from gold nuggets. This perception of griffins doesn't seem to be true of the griffins in the Witcher universe, however. You can argue that the archgriffin on Snidhall Isle was guarding valuable booty after conveniently setting up its nest on a secluded island within sniffing distance of the buried treasure, but that's hardly definitive. Many creatures in the Northern Kingdoms protect treasure chests. Another interesting facet of real-world mythology comes from European medieval legend. In such legends, griffins characteristically mated for life. If one partner died, the other would continue to live alone, never searching for a new mate. And while it isn't confirmed, an interesting piece of speculation holds that this personality trait led to the griffin being used as a symbol of the Christian church, representing their opposition to remarriage. In Christian teaching, the union of aerial bird and terrestrial beast was seen as a symbol of Jesus Christ, both human and divine. Thus, griffin sculptures can be found on some churches. Either way, this historical perception of the griffin aligns with their depiction in Andrzej Sapkowski's universe. Griffins in the Northern Kingdoms are rightfully perceived as predatorial brutes, but the royal griffin of White Orchard demonstrates the monogamous love for one partner, setting out on a path of chaos after losing his mate. Another widely held belief about the griffins of old comes from the supposed medicinal properties of their claws and feathers. It is believed their claws can heal wounds, while their feathers can restore sight to the blind. There isn't much by way of evidence for this in the Witcher universe, so we have to assume that these griffins do not have the same traits. However, one thing to note is that there is a potion called a griffin decoction, which when consumed, improves the subject's resistance to damage. This could well be mere coincidence, as they are not linked to healing or sight-related alchemical concoctions, but it is worth thinking about. The last reference to real-world history and mythology that I find interesting is the griffin's connection to heraldry. Griffins have been used on sigils and crests countless times throughout history in both the Witcher universe and the real world. In the Witcher universe, the kingdom of Caingorn displays a white griffin on a mauve field. In the real world, the griffin features in the coat of arms for the country of Latvia, as well as in countless European counties and boroughs. Anyway, the reason the griffin features so frequently is due to the fact that they are coined to be the most noble and pure of all heraldic beasts. Lions are considered the kings of the land in the animal kingdom, while the eagles are considered to be the rulers of the skies, making griffins the amalgamation of nobility, the very height of the hierarchy of beasts. The stark contrast between the griffins of heraldic tradition and the griffins of the Northern Kingdoms was put quite eloquently by a local unnamed farmer. I, half eagle, half tomcat, just like on the Lord's crest, 'cept this'n was carrying me dead cow stead of a scepter. As is typically the case in the Northern Kingdoms, Sapkowski's universe takes the romantic perceptions of mystical beasts and portrays them as the relentless predators they likely would have been in reality. Many things in the Witcher universe are poetic, playing out like a fairy tale, but unfortunately, most of the time, the world is harsh and unfair. If you seek out a griffin and hope to find gold, an ailment to all your woes, or the inspiration for your coat of arms, I'm sorry to say that you'll most likely just end up a shredded cadaver, spilling your entrails over the soil. And that concludes the latest edition of my Witcher lore and mythology series. I hope you enjoyed my take on the Griffins, and maybe you even learned something. Griffins are definitely some of the most memorable encounters in The Witcher 3, especially as it is the first real monster you find in your journeys. If you've come this far and think it deserves one, give the video a like. Thanks so much for watching, my name is Drew, and I will see you later.